Alrighty, folks, this is a series that we do inside school where I tap into my Rolodex and reach out to millionaires across the country, likely millionaires that I speak with each and every week. And today we have a true legend, somebody that I look up to more than he knows, the one and only Coach Carson, small and mighty investor. How you doing, Chad?
Doing well, Michael. The feeling is the other way around too. So I look up to you as well.
I appreciate that. Well, for the, five people on the planet that don't know who you are, why don't you quickly tell your story, 3, 4, 5 minutes, just so we level set and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, I live in Clemson, South Carolina, and about 22 years ago, I graduated from college and decided I didn't really want to get a real job, and so I started investing in real estate, like flipping houses, wholesaling. I was living in the spare bedroom of my current still business partner. He let me live there for free for a little bit, and we just started having fun, figuring out how to make a living with real estate. And then over the years, I've also became more of a buy and hold rental investor. And that's why I resonated, of course, with the one rental at a time message. And over the year, I also wrote a book called Retire Early with Real Estate, The Small and Mighty Real Estate Investor. I really enjoy teaching. I'm a practitioner of real estate. I feel like I'm always learning. I'm a crafts person trying to get better at it, but I like also teaching at the same time. It makes me a better investor, and I get a kick out of it. So if I can help anybody here, and I see a lot of friendly faces, people who I've seen in the community. So good to see everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, again, folks, just like all of our other discussions, we are here for you. So just like always, you can put your questions in the comments, which I will read in the order they come in. Or if you aren't shy, you can always raise your hand, and I will let you ask Coach a question directly. But before we go do that, I do have a couple of topics just to get so you guys can put the questions in comments. Coach, you were part of our 50,000 ORAT celebration. Your presentation on what I will simplify as understanding enough was voted the most impactful presentation of that event.
Wow.
Why don't you take us back to that presentation and really highlight that that aha moment for most people.
Yeah, I'll do a quick version of the story I told there because I think that really helps drive the point home. There were these three couples who were all investors, and they all began as beginners investing in real estate together. And like 10 or 15 years later, they wanted to celebrate because they'd all done really well, but their businesses looked very different. There was this one couple who lived in St. Louis, and they had just accumulated 10 single family houses. Very simple. They self-managed it, and they made $10,000 per month from their free and clear single family houses. There's another couple. They live in California. They had some apartments in North Carolina. These 50 apartment units also generated about 50,000 or $10,000 per month, $120,000 per year. And they did it remotely, had a property manager managing it. So they did really well as well. The third couple was financially the most successful couple. And this couple had thousands of units. They had gotten so big and done so well that they had started syndicating and putting together deals, raising money. And at the time that these couples were successful, they decided to go on a trip together, and they said, "Hey, we can all afford it. We're all doing really well." The third couple, by the way, was making like much more than 10,000 a month. It was like $100,000 a month, doing well. But they took this trip together to celebrate. At the end of the trip in Europe, they were like, "We should just go for another week. This is amazing." The first couple who had the 10 houses were like, "Yep, I got nothing to do. I'm good." The second couple with apartments was like, "Yeah, we're fine. We can go extend it." The third couple who made the most money had obligations. They had things back at home. They had to go give presentations to investors. One of the property managers that just got fired, they had to replace them. Long story short, they had a ton of money, but they didn't have a lot of time, and they didn't have enough mobility to do the kinds of things that these, quote, less wealthy people, but super successful people had. And to me, that story shows you the power of the money is great. Like it's definitely an important currency, but at some point you can get enough money and you can start trying to build up your currencies of time and mobility, which actually get you the stuff that you typically want in your life, those goals you make personally. And so at the meeting, I brought this idea. There's a graph from a book I read. I actually had this book on my shelf. Let me get it real quick. This book's called Your Money or Your Life. This is the old school version. There's a newer version of it, but there's this graph in the book about basically as you get more money, you get a little bit more money, you get a lot more happiness. Like the first $100 you get, you buy a meal and you're super happy. You get a little bit more money, you can buy a little bit of luxury items, and your happiness goes up and up and up. But then you get to a point where it actually starts going down when you have more stuff and it starts getting cluttered and your life feels, you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you're worried about losing stuff or getting stolen. And so the point of that graph is there is a place in all of our lives, and it's different for everybody. Like, I'm not going to judge anybody's how much you want to spend. That's not what it's all about. But there is a point where you have enough to be happy, and you're going to start getting more stuff, more properties, more things. And so I just like to bring that up because it's a challenge to all of us. I'm an A-type person. I go after it. I like to build. I like to grow, and I'm not ever stopping doing that. But there comes a point where, at least in my life, I started acquiring and growing my business to try to keep up with other people and to look good on social media, or not even for social media for me, just because other people could do it. I thought I should do it too. Yeah. Instead of thinking about like, what's enough for me? What am I really trying to do? For me, it was traveling, being with my family. I'm taking my kids are really into volleyball and dance right now. Like, I go to their tryouts. I'm there with them. Like, I want to be present. That's important to me. And so I like to bring those kind of stories up because there's a lot of voices telling you bigger is better. You should 10X, the biggest is always the best. Where I know people like Michael Zuber who teach people to buy one rental at a time. And I like to talk about a small and mighty investor because there's this whole group of people who a lot of people don't know, who are very happy with their 5 properties, 2 properties, 10 properties, 20 properties, doing really, really well and they're time billionaires. And that's the kind of people I think we should put up on a pedestal instead of the 10X 1,000 unit people.
Yeah. You brought this idea of a time billionaire up to me. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It might've been 3. And I got to tell you, the first time I heard it, I didn't understand. But what you just went through, again, reminding me of your story of 3 investors, that's where it's at, right? I think there's a lot of us that understand, what our freedom number is. Maybe you have a target goal for passive income, but you really need to measure it in time freedom, right? So talk about being a time billionaire again, because again, it didn't resonate with me the first time. I kind of missed it. So let's go a little deeper there.
Yeah, I think what I realized, and I have to learn this by touching the fire, y'all. So if you need to go touch the fire and learn this thing yourself, like, go make the money. Like, I'm fine, but you make the money. And then what we did in my business, I have a business partner. In 2007, we grew like crazy. We had over 50 closings in 1 year, and we bought a bunch of multifamily properties. I mean, we were getting after it. But stupid. It's like 2007, the storm clouds. We had to hold on by the skin of our teeth to survive, and we did. But the thing that I want to talk about being a time billionaire, we were making good money. We piled up a bunch of money and we built a lot of wealth. But I think the realization we had, I actually read a book called The 4-Hour Work Week that year. And it just struck me because he talked about how a business could just sort of be a tool for your life. It should be something that serves some kind of aim. And he actually talked about like these mini retirements you would take, where you wouldn't just go travel just to go on a vacation for a week. You actually would go for months at a time or years at a time. And I realized, I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, for me, travel and long-term travel, slow travel is really, really interesting. But I realized with my business the way it was, like, I couldn't do that. I had the money bank account, but I didn't have the time bank account. And so I had to work at systems and hiring people, but also the business model had to be a little bit different. Like, if I just wanted to grow, buy, sell, you can make a lot of money there, but that's really difficult to systematize. It's really difficult to extricate yourself from that business. Whereas if you own simple, small residential rental properties, there's a lot of work on the front end, buying them, getting them stabilized. But I consistently see people in my community and my own experience too, that once you get them stabilized with a small portfolio, an hour a week, 2 hours a week, that's very, very possible. And so all the people on the internet who push back and say real estate's not passive, I say, no, it's not passive. It's passive enough. Like, yeah. It's 2 hours a week, 1 hour a week.
Yeah,
that's it.
5 hours a month, not bad.
Yeah. But that's not the case for people making the most money. So like this is where is the money time balance is. Find a business model that eventually is going to get you out of the business, not a business model that's going to trap you in the business. And I call it a Frankenstein business, where you have Frankenstein, the stories with the scientist. He was brilliant. He was going to create this creature who was supposed to be actually a helpful thing. And the lightning happened and brought this creature to life. And it was a horror story because Frankenstein stood up and he took over that guy's life. And it was bad. That's what a lot of businesses do when you shoot for these big, huge numbers. And you hear the positive stories, like, oh, this person systematized it and they have a team and all that kind of stuff. Well, you don't hear there's a bias there. That's the survivor bias. There's a bunch of people who don't make it there, or who do make it there and they've ground down the rest of their life and their relationships and their health. And you're on a health journey now, Michael. Like you got to have flexibility and time to be able to take care of yourself and to take care of your family and your relationships. And so to me, it's just all about like prioritizing those things first, working it backwards. And you got to time is the currency that allows you to work, invest in relationships, invest in your health, take trips, do all those things. And money pays for the trips, but like time was for me was the more difficult part that I had to really work at to eventually pull myself out of the business.
Yeah, I love that. There's a story I've shared several times. I think it fits here, right? Olivia and I, we were climbing this mountain. We were go, 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 just like you. And ultimately we got to a point and we just chose to sit down, right? Because we got to a point where money wasn't the problem. And we started just focusing on time and options and what do we want to do every day? And that doesn't sell well on social media, right? It's not bigger is better. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and said, why haven't you doubled or tripled, or why don't you raise capital and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you don't understand. I can do what I want when I want with whoever I want any day of the week. This is not a bad life. I don't want stress. I don't want employees. I don't want investors.
Yep.
And they just don't get it. They all just assume that's the answer to everything. It's bigger, bigger, bigger. It's just not.
Yep. Yeah. So it comes down to how you measure success. I think that's really the bottom line. And don't get me wrong. Like I think what I've noticed, Michael, when I talk this up, is a story about lifestyle and quality of life and time billionaire. Some people kind of think you have to give up on the ambitions and the other things. Like you can make plenty of money. Like you can be like, to me, I like one of my goals is to be the best small and mighty real estate craftsperson I can be. Like I do my business really, really well. And it's kind of like, you can have McDonald's, who's like a franchise model who has 223,000 stores. But then you go to these local restaurants, these local craftspeople who serve you really, really well. Like which one, when you have like the choice, like I know McDonald's is fine, but when you have the choice, where do you want to go eat? Do you want to go with like the local artisan who's going to take care of you and has a local food? Or, McDonald's is just something you do on the way. And I look at small, mighty investors and one rental at a time investors like that small business that cares for their customers and they do things really well and they make plenty of money and they have this flexibility. Like it's a win, but it's just not a story that's told as much. It's not even the big venture capital tech business world. It's always like grow the thing until you sell it. And then you go make your bit, then you exit. Like this is not about exiting. This is about building a cash flow business, wealth that you then pay for your lifestyle for the rest of your life. And we have different rules than those kind of traditional business mindsets.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I have just come up with, it hit me. You obviously know the book, The Millionaire Next Door. All right,
Mm-hmm.
It's not a surprise to you. I've been thinking about what my community is made up with. By that stance, yours as well, small and mighty. And what I've come to believe, and I want to see how this feels to you, is we're just a collection of everyday wealth builders. That's all we're trying to do, right? We're trying to get to our number. We're not trying to be some billionaires or something, but we're this generation's millionaire next door. We're everyday wealth builders. How's that feel?
100%. Yes. Yeah. The people I see are, I think they're just trying to be themselves. They're not trying to be something they're not. They're using money to be more themselves, whether that's a parent, whether that's, even staying at your own job. Like I think if you really enjoy being, doing a landscaping business, or you really enjoy being a doctor, or, whatever you do, a teacher, try doing that same job when you don't have the money pressure. When you just, like my wife's a Spanish teacher. And so we've had this exploration with her. Like she still likes teaching languages, but you know what? She's going back to teach at when I first met her, she taught at a community college, and this fall she's going back to teach for them. And she's going to teach 2 classes. She's not going to make a ton of money doing it, but you know what? She's not going to do committees and all these extra paperwork and crap. She's like, look, I'll come back and teach, but I'm going to show up. I'm going to teach the class. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm out. Like, and so these are everyday millionaires who are doing quote regular old stuff, but they're doing it in a different way. And they're driving, some people have fancy cars. That's cool. Like my family, we drive a Toyota RAV4 and used cars. And that's the kind of millionaire next doors you see who are, but they have the time billionaire thing. A lot of my friends locally don't really get that. They're like, You just went
Yeah.
to Spain for a year. You just went to
Yeah.
Ecuador for like there something's
How
up with
can
you,
you
man.
do that?
What are you doing? That's like the lead in. Like, well, I'm happy to tell you. Here's a book. What could
Yeah.
teach you about it. So it's a good end when you start acting weird like that.
Yeah.
People want to figure out how you did it.
It's funny you bring that up. I just had Sean and Sharon on the channel who just took 2 years and traveled the world
That's
because of
awesome.
their small and mighty real estate portfolio. So it's a
Love
lot
it.
of fun. That video's live on the channel. All right, folks, remember this is for you. I get to talk to Coach each and every week. You do not. So raise hand, put comments. We're going to go to the first comment there from Scott. I go in the order we receive them. Says, I honestly can't thank you both enough as I've learned so much from each of you and truly enjoy your content. So,
Thank you,
Coach,
Scott.
keep it up.
Thanks.
Uh,
Thanks so much.
yeah, Mark says, hi, aloha. Stacy, your book, The Small and Mighty Investor, made a huge impact on us. What is your criteria for deciding if a rental property should be sold or held on to? Ooh, Stacy, good question. When are
Yeah,
you
really good.
selling something?
For me, some of the fundamentals have to change for me to want to sell a rental property these days. Like I will admit, earlier in my career, you just have to survive, and sometimes you make decisions. Like I sold a couple
That's
rental
survival.
properties
Yeah. Yeah.
that I regret. Like I sold one of the best locations in my town, this single family house, and I made like 15 grand on it, and it helped me pay the bills. But I still drive by this. That property is worth, like I think I had 130,000 in it or 140, and it's worth 600, 700,000 now. It's like yeah. But
Ouch.
so I sold it then, but my criteria now, that because I have a financial base, which is important, kind of a
Yeah.
secondary topic here, like build a financial base so you don't have to sell for financial reasons. I will sell a rental because the thesis changed, like the motivation, the reason I bought it changed. The location's getting worse. The property, often I have a hit list of rental properties because they're high maintenance properties that just
Yes.
don't perform that well. So I have one right now that's probably the top of my hit list that has a septic tank on either side of the duplex. So both duplexes have a septic. It also has a bunch of trees all around the property, which is beautiful, but every time you have a windstorm, they fall. They could fall right on the house. This one's on a slope, so there's a lot of water issues. I have sump pumps or French drains inside the crawl
Mhm.
space. I just have all these maintenance things. Like I'll give you the opposite of that. The perfect rental property for me is a single story ranch house, typically maybe a duplex with this brick. So there's low maintenance exterior. There's no water issues. It's on a lot that has, like above the roads. There's no water running onto the road because we have a lot of water in our area, a lot of rain, and there's a crawl space. So you can get all the plumbing. It's about 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, so it's big enough, but not
Yeah,
too
but not too
big
big.
because
Yeah.
if you have 3,000 square feet, that's like a bunch of heat and air units. And so the
Mhm.
theme here is like low maintenance, because really, like I've been thinking about this, Michael, like and also Stacy, the lot itself is really what goes up in value and appreciates, and it's the location. The little house, you just want to be as efficient as possible, and so the rent is going to help you pay for the land, which is going to go up in value. So for me, I will sell some properties sometimes when the cost of holding that property and the maintenance is just killing me, and or I made a bad decision on the land and the lot itself, because the location and the buy box is the most important part. So if I missed on that, I've sold many properties because of that, either the location or just the kind of money pit of maintenance. Those are the two big motivations for me.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at as well, right? We have a portfolio that we've put together on purpose, and about once a year, usually around tax time. Interestingly enough, Olivia look at our portfolio and we try to figure out who has the most headaches. And the last one we sold was a triplex that I was so excited to buy. It was a duplex in front, a bad, today we'd call it an ADU in the back, but it was just a single family home in the back that was relative much newer than the duplex. And we bought it right, and it was supposed to print money, and it just never did, and we fought it. It was a battle for 5 years, and we finally got to a point where one triplex, in a portfolio that was almost 200 units, was 80% of our headaches. And we're like, done, sell
Yeah,
that thing,
get rid
get
of
it
it.
out of here. Something changed. We're snake bit. It's bad luck. Sell, sell, sell.
Yep.
Yeah. So if there's a property that's 80% of the headaches, I have no problem selling it. You agree?
I agree. There's one other criteria. There's the location, the maintenance, and also just some of them attract bad
Yeah.
tenants. I've
Yeah.
had I had a couple of properties that just I could not keep a good tenant in a property, and some of it was just intangible. Maybe it was the neighbors. I don't know what the deal was, but so yeah, you lose some, and you just got to move on.
Yeah, very, very cool. Again, folks, remember, put some comments, raise hands, all that stuff. We're gonna summarize a comment from Dennis. He put this in school the other day, but put it here because it's really an attaboy for Coach. Basically, Coach, you're impacting the next generation. Is the summary of this. Dennis is sharing books with his son,
Wow.
who's on deployment in the Middle East, and starting to have great conversations with him about real estate. And he attributes the newfound knowledge and plan to small and mighty real estate investor.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Amazing,
good,
Dennis. Thank you.
good work. So now a question from Dennis. Do you feel there is a certain strategy, i.e. build to rent or short-term rental, rent by room, blah, 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 that is growing more viable in South Carolina with the higher property taxes and non-primary purchases?
Mm. By the way, thank your son for his service on the aircraft carrier. Appreciate
Absolutely.
him too. So certain strategy like build to rent, BRRRR, that's growing or more viable in South Carolina. Yeah, I think he's referring to higher property taxes. South Carolina has a weird tax assessment. It's kind of like when you think of homeowners tax exemptions, where like if you're an owner occupant, you get lower taxes. That's
Mm.
essentially what we have. Is like, so I have a house the house I live in, for example, my taxes are $1,100 a year, $1,200 a year, super low. If the same house would be $4,000 or $5,000
Oh,
if it
damn.
were a rental. So
Okay.
like the assessment goes up. But that I've compared property taxes here to other states, and it's actually not that much different. The actual rental property taxes, it's just our homeowners have really low property taxes, so that hasn't been an issue. Like in the way this is the rule of thumb, by the way, for y'all. If you're looking at property taxes and you're comparing like different local counties or cities, I like to use I'd like to be curious, Michael, what you use, but
Mm.
about 2 months of rent is about typical for me of how much the property taxes should cost to be like reasonable. So if I have $2,000 in rent and my property taxes are $4,000, that's about normal for me. If I talked to a guy yesterday in my coaching community. He's in Metro County in Georgia, outside of Atlanta. He's got a property that rents for like $1,800, and his property taxes are $2,000.
Mm.
I was like, that's
That's not bad. Yeah.
so that's really low. And I've also talked to people in New Jersey and Chicago who had $4,000 rents and their property taxes were $15,000. So like there's a wide variety of property taxes, but if you use that rule of thumb and to say, all right, the rule of thumb, basically there's some cities that their budgets are busted and they're spending
Yeah,
way
they're
too
just
much on
going higher.
taxes.
Yeah.
And so you got to be, if you spend 4 months of your rent on property taxes, you hadn't even paid for your taxes or your
Right.
insurance, your
Yeah.
maintenance, your mortgage, like
That hill
profits.
gets
Yeah.
really high to climb. Yeah.
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 So anyway, that's a
That
little
feels right.
side story to that. But for me, I'm doing more build to rent at the moment, but it's this is really just like the seasons of real estate investing change. And for me, there's not a lot of inventory on the market, and I'm just kind of curious about new construction. So like I have a deal that I just bought a couple of weeks ago, and it's a fixer upper house in a good location in Clemson, but it had an extra lot, and I understood the zoning. And so we actually just got it surveyed, and we're actually going to turn it into 3 lots based on the zoning we have. And we're actually just going to tear the house down. Is my what I'm 99% sure I'm going to do this. I just got my survey back yesterday, but instead of us putting $100,000 into the remodel of this older house
Take
and
it.
have kind of an imperfect product, we're going to blade the thing for $8,000, and then we'll have about $70,000 in each lot. And then because we bought it, we bought it for 190, and then we have another $10,000 in the house. So I think we'll have like 210 in 3 lots, 70,000 per lot. So that's an example of a deal that I didn't do 10 years ago, but because of the inventories, the listed houses in Clemson, you couldn't buy a house that for the price we're gonna build it for. And so
Right.
by buying the lot at a good price, by understanding how to separate and split lots up, it's another way to get into a deal cheaper. It's like another strategy.
Yeah.
And I think all of us as small investors should be thinking about small developer. Think about
Yeah.
yourself as a
Infill
small
lots.
developer. Infill,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Infill. Yeah.
We're not like the big construction people who are going to build 100 houses, although you could if you wanted to, but you could definitely buy houses and split off lots or build an ADU in the backyard. Like that's a perfect kind of development that we can do. So I think that's definitely a trend I'm
Yeah.
getting
Quick
behind.
question about these 3 houses, assuming you scrape the one. Do you think you're just going to build 3 kind of mirror images? Will they be individual townhomes? What are you thinking?
Individual houses, yeah. We might have to share one driveway. I got to get an easement from the road department to see what we can do on the driveways. But
Okay.
I think I'm going to talk to my builder about it. I'm going to try to vary the color scheme and maybe a few little things, but they're going to be cookie cutters, pretty
Change the
much.
porch or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, the same.
it's gonna be this. And just if y'all are curious about the numbers, I know y'all like the details. It's that so we'll have a 70,000 bucks in each lot. My builder said we can build each of these houses for about 170 is the hard cost for him, and he's going to charge me about a $40,000 fee per house to build that.
Okay.
So 210 is in the construction, plus 70 is 280, and I think the house is going to be 350 to 375 will be the value. So we're going to be in it for about 80 cents on the dollar, 80%, which for me on a new construction is pretty good. It'll probably rent for 2,200 bucks. He thinks maybe 2,400. I'm thinking like 2,000, 2,200.
Okay.
So just, yeah, that's the kind of deal I'm doing right now in South Carolina.
Very, very cool. We'll go to one more comment from Flavio, and then we'll go to Jim after that. Jim's got his hand up, but Flavio's question, we'll hit this one first. For newbies like me, what is your advice in this market?
Think long term. If you're a newbie, I'm assuming, capital's a little harder, to get the money to start up. So our house hacking is always my favorite. That's like my first recommendation. Yeah. Yeah. If you can, the reason I say house hacking, think about house hacking broadly. If you can move into a property that will eventually become an investment for you, whether you rent it out like part of it right now, that's that kind of classic house hack, or maybe you move into a house that is just a simple house that you can then keep it as a rental after you move out instead of selling it, or you could flip the house. Like if the rentals don't make sense in your neighborhood, but even any one of those like homeowner strategies allows you to get into a property with a lower down payment. And that's to me like one of the most important parts about as a new investor. If you can get into it for 5% down instead, or if you're a veteran, 0% down, or if you're FHA, 3.5% down, that's the game changer, because you could buy $500,000 property for a lot less, for 25,000 bucks down instead of the big. So the down payment is the big part. The other part is think about just how intimidating your first rental property can be. It's hard to get it under your belt. So if you can just move into the property, you got to live somewhere, and you can learn, you can make a few mistakes. And so I love everything about that. Like if you're willing to do a live-in type situation of your first deal or two, it's one of the most natural ways to get in the business. I know so many people have done that.
Yeah, I want to highlight that. And again, folks, you're lucky you're in school. I loaded Vegas year 2 in school for free because we got to 400 people. Look at the video on day 2 from PTO for Life. I think in that video they talked about being on their 8th house hack. They're both financially free, retired, all that good stuff. They just closed number 9. And this is really, coach's advice on steroids. Most people aren't going to do 9 kind of live in, house hacks, but it is possible. And
yeah,
now 10 years into the journey, they're financially free. I think they're both in their early 30s. And, if you really want to go for it as a couple, PTO for Life leads the way as an example. And again, you're in school. That's why you're here today. Go watch that video. It's for free. It's day 2, video 1, right? They open day 2. So go watch that. All right, Jim, your hand's up, buddy. Go ahead, ask your question.
It's kind of for both of you. So obviously, Michael, I'm a contractor for 30 years, in the industry 37. My whole thing is value add. I'm in the process of 3 burrs. My whole strategy is going to be within 3 hours of Sacramento, California, and I'm really heavily looking at Pittsburgh. I'm going to start in Pittsburgh with everything's going to be lower cost of entry just to start with for the first 2 to 3 years. Flip or get those houses. I can't get my head wrapped around flipping, because I don't want to pay the government the money.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep it for a year at least, and then I can go to capital gains or 1031 it out.
Agreed.
Kind of want to poke holes at that strategy if you can. I'm also trying to turn it into a partial business because I want to get out of the construction part. Customers are not always the easiest to work with. I'd rather control my own destiny.
Amen there. Coach, we'll let you go first. You're the guest.
I like it. I like this. I mean, I think any business and any part of real estate, you got to find your competitive edge. And if you're a contractor, then by all means work on burst strategies. Yeah. I mean, new construction comes to mind for me too. Like if you can figure out the zoning and study the zoning books of your local town, like that is the puzzle unlock for so much value on property. So if you want to, you can add value with the traditional way of just finding a fixer upper that needs work and you fix it up. That's cool. Like that's always there. But if you want to like put that strategy on steroids, you can start finding these little hidden gems of, hey, this lot could have an ADU, or this lot could be split, or this lot, if I buy these 3 lots together, that unlocks me building 5 townhouses. Like there's so many, as a builder with your skills, if you might already be doing this, Jim, but
Yes, I am.
so that to me is like the cheat code. And yes, I think financing is the other thing. If you can put together a good financing strategy, if you want to hold them like that, it's just going to be figuring out, my source of short-term money, private money, line of credit, whatever, so that I can knock a bunch of deals down. And then my takeout money with the DSCR or conventional loan, just getting that kind of that financing assembly line going so that you can afford to keep them.
Yeah, I already have a HELOC, and then I have some private money. So I have about 425,000 that I'm paying for cash. Then 3 to 6 months cashing it out with the DSCR, because I'm self-employed, so I can only go DSCR.
Yeah, awesome.
And then, yeah, I've already so one of the properties a 1 acre, which I'm already looking at ADU. So, and then one thing that's nice about these properties, they're an opportunity zone. So if I did want to sell it in 10 years, I get full no taxes on it.
Yeah,
on the profit. Yeah.
So perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one thing I would add there, Jim, just for to get it on record, is going out of state, going to Pittsburgh. Obviously, we got a lot of fans of Pittsburgh in the community. What you need to do is you really need to focus on the first couple of deals. I wouldn't be in a rush to get to 4, 5, 6 projects. I think it's all about the first 2, and going slow to go fast. You don't know what you don't know. I would be laser focused on the first 2, and then really almost stop until you got proof of concept, because you are already seeing the future, how you could daisy chain these together, get multiple projects, create a fund. There's lots of things you could be doing, but until you have that proof of concept, right? You've had 2 successful exits in Pittsburgh. Go slow to go fast. That's the one thing I would say.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing, because I have the 2 of the properties will be done in September. I should have them rented by the end of September at the latest.
Okay.
And then the third one should be ready in October. I'm going on a trip middle of October, so I can't commit to that. But then my thought was,
Jim, I lost you, buddy. Jim, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry,
I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
So my two of the properties will be rented in September. Then the third, hopefully October. And then my thought was just to do one small property in Pittsburgh to get to trial.
Yeah, that's my advice. Is everything you're doing in Cali within an hour or whatever. I'm not worried about one iota.
Right.
It's the distraction of Pittsburgh that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I'm not doing that until these are turned, these are rented.
There you go. All right, very cool. Thanks, Jim. All right, back to the comments again. Order they're put in, folks. We got 26 minutes, so definitely get your questions in. We'll go to Steve's question next. At what point would you recommend focusing on deal analysis, out-of-state properties, inflated list prices, high insurance, depressed rents, and crushing deals in my market? I think that's Jacksonville, Florida. Chad?
Yeah, I'm kind of slow to abandon markets. I think there's opportunity everywhere. I do think Florida, the insurance issue is real in Florida. There's no doubt about that. I had a coaching call yesterday with someone who's buying south of Tallahassee, Florida, and we were really focusing for 20 minutes on really getting really detailed on the flood maps, of just understanding the flood maps of your town. What's the highest ground I could be buying in my town with all these floods lately? I mean, this is a real thing, So it's that's part of it is studying, is getting a little bit more nuanced with what lots or I can buy in. But I mean, insurance is something you have to change your underwriting on. You just have to, if the insurance costs are higher, then that affects what you can pay for a property. That's a big deal. But I like Jacksonville, Florida. Like, I think it's a big metro market. I go back to like the question about selling a rental property. It's kind of like the same thing about abandoning a market. Like, has the fundamental reason I got into Jacksonville changed? Or people stop moving there? Is the long-term economy of Jacksonville changed? Hurricanes, that's a systematic change, but like those things do go in cycles as well. So to be in Florida, you have to be, that's kind of part of your investment deals. You gotta own through those and deal with that risk of hurricanes here and there. But I think the inflated list price thing, there are lots of high list prices all over the place. Michael and I are doing the same thing. We're making low, embarrassing offers, right? That we're doing
disrespectful.
Disrespectful. Yeah, I put the wrong words in your mouth. This
Yeah,
disrespectful offers. Like the
you
property
just
I
never
just
know.
bought, the property I bought that I'm turning into 3 lots was listed for 299 for a lot of time, and I kept offering 190, 189, 189, 189, 189 for 3 months, and they finally came down to 240, and then I said I'm still at 190, and we got it. So that's
Folks, if you did not realize what I've been telling you for months and months and months, it's real. It happens. Believe
yeah,
it. Coach just did it. 190 on a 300. He stayed there, followed up,
yeah,
followed up, followed up, followed up, followed up. This
it works.
works.
It
Just
works.
know it works. Believe in yourself. It doesn't work. It's not going to be accepted the first time. It's not supposed to be accepted the first time. If they
Yeah,
accept your offer the first time, you offer too much.
yeah.
It's a process. All right.
And right now at this moment in the market is a great buying time. And I know it's great because I'm starting to get people saying, I don't know, should we be like, kind of pulling back now because of the economy and because of this? Because I'm like, go, like this is the
Yeah,
time
this
to
is it.
buy.
This is the best buyer's market
Yeah.
we've seen since 2013 in most of
Yes.
the country. Obviously, the
Yes.
Northeast is still white hot, but yeah,
Exactly. So the
very good.
places where everybody's kind of panicking a little bit, that's where you should be buying.
Go
That's
fish. Yeah, go
exactly.
fish. Go throw your lure in the water. All right. Jesse has a question. Do you like hanging on to performing properties even if you have good, consistent cash flow, if you have a ton of equity for non-performing prop? Well, let's actually stop there. So what do you do with the property, Chad? It's got a whole bunch of equity, let's say a couple hundred grand, but it also cash flows, I don't know, I'll pick a number, 500 or 500 bucks a month, so 6 grand a year. How do you feel about an asset like that?
Early in my career, I might try to leverage that some. Yeah, maybe I refinance. Oh, I
Yeah,
don't
early
love.
in my career, no doubt, leverage
Yeah,
that equity, no doubt.
yeah, yeah. So then you can go buy the next one because when you're this first 5 to 10 years of your growth is
Yep.
you're capital constrained, so you got to figure out ways to leverage that money.
Growth. Yeah.
Yeah,
But what do you
but
do now in chill mode? I mean, you probably, I'm going to guess, don't let me put words in your mouth. You have plenty of properties that have more than 50% equity and cash
mhm.
flow, and you leave them alone.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about return on equity as I am
Me either.
return on brain damage. That's that's
Return
the
on
word.
brain damage.
Yeah.
Shirt right there. Return on brain damage.
I can't that's my friend Arion Shihai's quote, so I'll give him credit.
That's
Besting
a good one.
architect.
That's a good one. Yeah. So again, I know a lot of people talk about return on equity. It's nothing I've ever considered. Just when I was in growth mode for those 10 to 15 years, if I went below 60% LTV, I was scraping it. Obviously, with the caveat, no alligators, right? I made that mistake. I've been very public, went negative. But yeah, it was leverage, leverage, leverage. Today, I have assets that are free and clear, um, that I wouldn't touch. So, it's definitely something that gets talked about a lot. So let's go to part two of this. For non-performing properties related to ongoing maintenance repairs, how much time do you give it for a turnaround?
Year or two. I think
Yeah, at
you can
least a year. Yeah.
you can have a bad cycle for a year, but I mean, I'm a meticulous bookkeeper. I don't know. That's just part of my mo. I tell people that I think bookkeeping is like the secret superpower of real estate investing. Kind of, and I use one of my favorite movies is The Matrix with Neo. Kind of when he goes into the Matrix and he can start seeing everything as zeros and ones, and he can stop bullets and do all sorts of superpower stuff. I feel like bookkeeping's that way because
Ah,
when you really know your numbers, your entire business looks like zeros and ones, and you can start recognizing patterns, good patterns, bad patterns. Is that just a flip? Is it just a fluke, or is that actually like a consistent thing? But I also know because I've looked at a lot of other people's books that most real estate investors have horrible books and they don't
yeah,
really
amen to that.
really know
Yeah.
what's going on. So answer this question, yeah, I would give it a year or two, but if you can start seeing patterns, you can start seeing like, all right, how come every time the property turns over, how come the property's turning over once a year and we have it's vacant for 2 months, and you start looking at those numbers and you can see and compare that to other properties, and it's that's how long I would give it.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. All right, got a question from Scott. Actually, one I've never asked you, Coach. So this is a good one. What are your thoughts on investing in appreciating markets like Orange County, California, versus cash flow markets like the Midwest and Southeast? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I started in the Southeast, so that's just the place I know. But having worked with a lot of people all over the country, I appreciate a quote I got from one of my mentors, John Schaub, and he used to say he would go out. He's from Sarasota, Florida. He invested in Florida, but he would always go out and speak in California. And he said for 20 years, and he said his wealthiest students 20 years later were all from California. And it always struck me. I'm like, really? It's interesting. And early in my career, I was cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But I've come around to the idea that there's multiple ways to build wealth in real estate investing. Like old school way is you just stack a bunch of cash flow, you pay the debt off with amortization, and you just keep going. Like this, like cash flow, compounding. But in the world we live in, which is inflation, which is high price properties, I think the whole country's looking more and more like California did for the last 30 years, and we have to get used to that. Where you have the ratio of rent to price is not as good. The cap rate of the property or that you're buying is less than what the cost of the debt is. That's the reality. That's what we're looking at right now. And so you have to go with a different strategy. The strategy is put bigger down payments. It's just try to get some break even or a little bit of cash flow on day one, but be meticulous about buying in good buy boxes where the growth and the population growth and the demographic tailwinds are behind you, because really that's where you're going to make most of your wealth building anyway, is through the appreciation and growth of the rent and the appreciation growth of the price. And so it's a little bit of a variation on the old strategy for me, but I think it works even better in Orange County in many ways. If you can afford to put a down payment in Orange County, like the cost of entry is just bigger now. So if you went to South Carolina and you just wanted to buy, you could buy a $200,000 property and put 20% down on that is $40,000, or even 30%, $60,000. Whereas to buy $1 million property in Orange County, 30% down is $300,000, and that's just for some people that's a non-starter. It's just a bigger game that's harder for some of us to play, buying these big properties in big expensive places.
I like it. All right, got going to Kevin. I'm investing in a high cost of living area and using a concept of okay deal in a great area, being a small and mighty developer. I'm doing a full gut remodel to the studs, trying to build a team of subcontractors. Do you have any tips for building your contractors list?
I'm like a B plus project manager. So like I will say, when you find good ones, do what you can to keep them. Like don't nickel and dime them. That's what's worked for me. Like I have a really good, he's a plumber, also has he does electrical for me too. He's just a super knowledgeable in multiple areas, and he's just dedicated to my maintenance. I don't nickel and dime him. Like when he tells me what he's got, I just pay him. So that's one way. Like I try to pay my subs fast, and I try to be clear with them. And it doesn't always work. There's still turnover, but it also this is how my team mentality in general. Like I played football, and to me, like the team, this is a quote from John Wooden speaking at LA, like UCLA. He used to say, like, if you're the all-star, if you're the star of the team, the biggest most important part of you being a star is the rest of your team. Like you can't be a star until you make them a star, is basically the concept. And so I think just taking care of them, treating them better. You might not always be able to pay as much as like a retail customer or something, but you can pay consistent, you can pay fast, and you can be easy to work with. And that's how I've stayed consistent with my contractors.
Love it. Got a question from Kenny here. When do you know when you can start focusing on paying off properties versus buying more? Cash flow isn't quite there.
I think it's just hitting a net worth goal. That's the way I've come around to more lately. Now, like I'll work it backwards. Like somebody tells me they want $60,000, let's say $120,000 a year in cash flow. The rough math I've been doing lately when I'm like doing long-term planning with folks is saying, if you want to make $120,000 a year in cash flow, you need about $2 million in equity in real estate. Why do I say that?
Tell me how you get there.
So about a 6% return on your equity.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little aggressive, maybe 5%. So if you want 120,000, the rough math is $2 million times 6% is $120,000. So if you're planning kind of your long-term vision here, like most people come to me and they're like, hey, I got $500,000 in equity right now, and I want to make $120,000 a year, passive. So, well, you got some more wealth building to go. Let's just keep building. So it just shows you the gap where you are. But at any point along the way, let's say you get to $1 million and you're like, I still want to make $10,000 a month, but I'm just tired. I want to take a break. You could start moving towards paying your properties off and do like a little, I call it a harvester period of your life. Like you have the starter period, the growth period, the builder period, and then you have the harvester period, which is it's a different strategy. It's not just about return on investment. It's not just about getting more and more and more. It's about making moves that might look like anti-growth moves, but they reduce your hassle, increase your cash flow, reduce your risk.
That's the key. I think more and more people need to have that honest discussion, and especially if you're in a relationship on what's that enough number. In this example, it was 10 grand. So again, getting to a point where you have a couple $1,000,000 in equity, if you're doing real estate, you got to buy box, you're going to do it for a decade. All of you should get there, right? This is not get rich tomorrow, but it's get rich for sure.
Yep.
So I love all that. All right, we got a question. Got some more from Alex. Coach, I've been a small and mighty real estate investor for 15 years. I had no idea there were others out there like me. I didn't even consider myself an investor until I saw one of your videos. Good job. Your video with Dion led me to him who brought me here, this amazing community. Thank you both for all you have done for others. Coach.
That's awesome. I love to hear that, Alex. Thank you.
So in February, he accepted being an investor. So that's really cool. All
love
right.
it.
Jen is out there, says, thanks for your video yesterday. Love that you used the word maintenance for it. We're definitely in the first 5 years of such boring maintenance period right now.
Yeah, that's what we talked about on your channel, right, Michael? We talked about the maintenance period versus the hustle period. That yep. They have different mentalities.
Exactly. All right, got again, folks. We may have time for one or two more if you want to get comments in there. The last one I see here is from Kevin. Would a new investor like myself purchasing 2 brand new Class A neighborhood duplexes be a good or bad idea?
I probably need more information, right?
Yeah, I was going to say I need a little bit more information. Yeah, so let's just play this out together. So, again, I have no problem buying new, right? In fact, one of the things I'm doing in my market of Vegas is I'm working with a real estate agent, and this is the question I asked him yesterday. His name's Jody. I said, Joe, are there any builders who are really desperate? Like, are there builders who are really desperate? Because what I want to do is I want to find them and I want to go, hey, what if I bought 2 or 3? Or heck, what if I put together a group and we bought 5 or 10? Like, what could you do for us? Right. So again, I'm always about striking when when it's hot. So I have no problem buying new, first off, but it has to be a great deal. It has to, in my world, it has to produce a yield that is above average. I don't really give a shit if it's new or 100 years old, right? It's always about the yield for me. So again, if they're, 2 Class A duplexes, doesn't matter. The second thing I think about, again, having talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people, is what do you do for a day job, right? If you're a dentist, a lawyer, somebody who's printing $500,000 a year, then yeah, go buy new stuff, put 50% down, set it and forget it, stick a property manager. Again, it's all about who you are and where you're going. However, the last thing, if you're somebody who's struggling to put together scratch or the down payment, it's probably not where you're going to get the value add, right? Or the margin of safety. So those are my first things when I see those, first things. What do you got, Coach?
100% agree on both of those. Yeah. There's every strategy, BRRRR, new construction, build to rent, all of them work. It's just, there's some question about whether it works for you and whether it works for you at this time of your life in this market. So the best metaphor I've heard for this for both acquisition tools and strategies, but also for financing tools, is that these are just toolboxes. Don't make the toolbox more special than it is. We're using tools to build the structure of our wealth and our cash flow and our wealth building. Don't get attached to the tool. The tool is great. Sometimes you need to put the tool back in the toolbox. Sometimes you need to get it out, but it's don't get too attached to it. Just use it for, if the screwdriver doesn't work, go to the wrench, whatever, you just keep rotating them in and out.
Yeah. One of the things you're going to get in our school communities, you're going to learn about a lot of different tools, and different tools have different times. So, there's nothing wrong with understanding them all, but definitely don't try to use a screwdriver when you need a sledgehammer. It's not going to work. All right, Chris, here's actually an interesting way to put this, Coach. Coach, have you ever laid out your top 22 properties as positions on defense and offense? What is your quarterback property?
Oh man, I haven't done that. That's a good idea though. It might give me a little.
That's a video.
Yeah, I get a video idea. Might get too complicated. Like football, people might not know this, but when I played football in college, it's like chess. It's basically moving around. So if you're a coach who's having to call plays, it's like you have 11 players who can line up like a bunch of different formations and run a bunch of different plays. So like there's a bunch of, so it can get complicated. So I might confuse people with my video, but
well, let me ask it this way. I would guess, again, if you look at your properties as players on the field, what are you, coach? Are you the guy in the sideline making the plays? Are you perhaps the quarterback? Right? Because again, nothing happens until you get the ball.
I think I'm more the coach in the upstairs now these days. I'm the mastermind. I'm drawing the scheme overall for the, but my property manager, I think, would be more the quarterback for me right now. They're my key team member. I was also the quarterback though. Like I played quarterback for many years. I managed my own properties. I was the quarterback on the remodels. I was the one meeting the contractors out there. So I think everybody should get in the trenches and do that when you can. But then, going back to my whole time billionaire thing, like at some point, real estate, you have to hire people to do some of the things that you have done in the past, especially if you're a hands-on person. That can be hard to do, to let go of those things. And so for me, like getting up into the booth, to use this metaphor, and just letting other people be the stars, and other people, especially my property managers, let them make some decisions. Like I give them some leeway to make calls on some things. And then I give them a number, like it's over $800, for example. I want to make the decision. Just send me a text. I'll get back to you fast. But I do have if we have like a couple minutes, I'll show you. Let me share my screen.
Oh,
if I can do that, I'll show a property. Let's show and tell so we can.
There you go.
All right. So downtown, I'm going to Google Maps, Clemson, South Carolina. This goes back to the buy box idea, right? Mm-hmm. And if I can get my screen to back, there we go. So Clemson University is right here in the middle. That's like everything revolves around Clemson. We're a small town of 20,000 people. But if you go to there's a little downtown in Clemson. If you ever visit there, this is where all like the cool little shops are. And if you on game day, like there's a big football stadium here, there'll be people all over town tailgating everywhere. But like downtown is where it all happens, like little commercial district. So I own one property that is like my best property that we've ever bought location wise, right here on Wigington. So if you like, here's downtown, here's like the epicenter of campus where everybody hangs out. Mm-hmm. This property is right here. And it's two old duplexes. Mm-hmm. And so duplex, converted houses, but so they produce really good rent. They've gone up every year. They stay rented. But really going back to the zoning idea that I was talking about, this property is zoned for multifamily, and it could probably someday down the road, this will be probably combined with the next door property, torn down, and you'll build like a 3-story apartment building or something, or some kind of luxury condo development or something, because the land is getting much more valuable than the actual buildings. And that's
land bank that.
Yeah, that's been a big lesson for me, is that it's kind of like McDonald's. I've been researching this a little bit. McDonald's I looked at it this morning. This is how nerdy I am. They make 67% of their profit, 2/3 of their profit, from real estate rent.
Yep. Yeah. They own
McDonald's corporate
to the franchise. Yeah.
It leases to the franchise. And that doesn't count. They have about $50 billion worth of value real estate. It goes up in value every year. So what is that? Another billion or two?
Easy. They don't mark to market on that.
Yeah. So if that's a lot of their wealth. And it made me think about what we do. Like we rent properties and we think that's the main thing, but rent is like the burgers. Like rent is just helping you pay for the land, which is what the big value in the long run. And so that's a quarterback for me. That's an example of one of my best properties. We own a couple other properties nearby here, but you start with like the epicenter, you go out from there, you try to find properties you can afford as close to the epicenter as you can, and then find ways to be creative to make it work.
I like it. We'll go one more question from Steve. How can I finance a build after splitting a lot? I can handle the soft costs. I've seen ops in my market, in my neighborhood of choice. So basically outline the financing.
I'm using private money for the ones that I actually need. After this call, I'm going to go call my one of my private lenders and say, hey, I've got a plan on these 3 lots. I'm going to need to borrow about, say, $210,000 on a $350,000 property. Are you in? Yeah. Because we paid cash for the land, so we don't have to. We're putting our own money into that. So we need to borrow the 170 plus the 40, so about $210,000. We're going to offer to pay them 7% interest on that, and then we're going to probably be a 3 to 5 year loan because we're going to pay them off eventually. But that's
So
our
I can
plan.
walk you through the process. Essentially works the same way if you were going to do financing. So if you do an infill lot, you buy the lot. Typically, you have to buy the lot for cash. Then you can go to a bank, likely a community bank, and get what's called a construction loan.
Mm-hmm.
The land then becomes pledged asset to this construction loan. To get a construction loan, you're going to have architecture and plans and rough costs, in this case, 210, like Coach said. Then they're going to set up multiple draws, probably 3, maybe 5, depending on the institution. You're going to have to fund the first, I don't know, call it 40 grand. Then phase 1, you go get that money back. You get the 40 grand, you do phase 2. So it is a long process. They're typically called construction loans. Do know that they are variable. They are not fixed. They typically are short term, 1 or 2 years. They are not 7%. They are likely 9 or 10%. So again, that's you could do basically the same thing with a bank, although private money at 7 is a much, much better way to go if you have the Rolodex of investors.
Yeah. Long time building relationships, and
There you go.
you got it. But yeah, 9 or 10 would be more typical probably.
Absolutely. All right, Coach, we're right up on the 9 o'clock. I know you got to go. Give us your closing thoughts, small and mighty investor.
I just want to encourage all of y'all to keep going. This is it's a weird market, but you've got the best advisor here to tell you how to navigate like ups and downs of economy. So you're in good hands with Michael, and I would just say you're in the right place. You're doing things, and be patient with the progress. Like I compare all of these properties we buy as little seeds you plant, and if you were gardening in your backyard, which I like to do, you wouldn't expect the apple tree to start producing fruit like 6 months later. You got to water it, you got to nurture it. And rental properties are like a fruit tree. They take 5, 7, 10 years to really, really produce the way they're going to, but they produce. It's a steady game. You got to be patient.
There you go. Coach, you're amazing. Thank you for saying yes to come in this Friday. I appreciate you so much.
My pleasure. No, good to see everybody. Thanks, Michael.
Later. Bye.
See ya. Bye.